Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a proven playbook for building some serious wealth, and it comes from the brilliant investor Monish Pabrai. Now, his whole idea is built on this one kind of counterintuitive thought. The fastest way to get rich isn't by taking these huge, crazy risks, but by getting really, really good at eliminating them. So let's just tackle this head on. Most of us, we're taught to believe that starting a business is this giant gamble, right? That you're basically rolling the dice with your career, your savings, everything. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? Well, according to Pabrai, the world's most successful entrepreneurs, we're talking about people like Bill Gates, Sam Walton, Richard Branson, they didn't strike it rich by loving risk. Not at all. They got rich by building businesses where the chance of losing was practically zero. Okay, so you're probably asking, how in the world do they do that? Well, the very first mental model is super simple, and honestly, a little controversial. It's this: forget about trying to invent something brand new. We've all been sold this story of the lone genius, the innovator who changes the world with a totally unique idea. But Pabrai says, what if that's actually the hardest way to do it? His model just flips this whole thing on its head. He says the lowest risk, highest reward path is to just find something that's already working and clone it. And hey, maybe even make it a little bit better along the way. I mean, just look at Bill Gates for a second. Microsoft didn't invent the spreadsheet. Nope, that was a program called Lotus 123. And they didn't invent the word processor either. That was WordPerfect. What they did was they saw what worked, and they just created their own better versions with Excel and Word. And it's the exact same story with Sam Walton. The guy who founded Walmart, he famously said he never had a single original idea. He spent his entire life just obsessively studying other retail stores, grabbing all their best ideas and then mashing them together into one powerhouse model. And here's where Pabrai's claim gets, well, kind of staggering. Just think about this number. He argues that if you simply become a master cloner, you are already 90% ahead of pretty much everyone else who's out there trying to build a business from scratch. 90%. All right, so let's dive into the next model. Let's say you found a great idea to clone. How do you actually get started without, quitting your day job and putting your entire financial life on the line? Okay, let's just do the math on your week. There are 168 hours, right? Your 9-to-5 job, that only takes up about 40 of them. So even when you factor in sleep and, life stuff, you're still left with this pretty big chunk of free time. And this right here, this is the whole strategy. It's not about magically finding more time. It's just about reallocating the time you already have. You don't sacrifice sleep, you don't quit your job, you just take those hours you'd normally lose to Netflix or scrolling on your phone, and you turn them into productive startup hours. It really is a simple 3-step playbook. Step 1, keep your job. Let someone else pay your bills. Step 2, dedicate all that reclaimed free time to building your own thing. And step 3, only, and I mean only, when it's making you money, like Pabrai's was in just 9 months, do you even think about making the leap. Now, for this to work, your whole mindset at your job has to change. Your goal is no longer about being the star employee of the month. Nope. Your goal is to perform just well enough to not get fired. You're saving all your best energy, your best brain power, for your own business. So this brings us to the core philosophy that kind of ties this whole thing together. It's a concept that Pabrai calls the Dhandho method. Dhandho is actually a Gujarati word, and it's just perfect for this. It basically means the art of going after wealth through businesses where your downside is tiny or maybe even doesn't exist at all. In other words, it's about making bets you basically can't lose. And this simple phrase, this becomes your filter for every single decision you make. Heads I win, tails I don't lose much. Does this opportunity fit that formula? If the answer is yes, it's a Dhandho bet. See, if you win, the upside could be huge. And if you lose, you barely even feel it. You want to see a perfect example of this in action? Look at the story of the Patels. After being exiled from Uganda, they came to the US and started buying up these small motels. They took all the risk out of it by living on site, using family labor to get rid of payroll costs, and they undercut their competitors to make sure they were always full. So what was the result of this relentless Dhandho strategy? Well, just look at this number. Today, a community that makes up just 0.1% of the US population owns a staggering 80% of all the motels in the entire country. That is an absolute empire, built not on taking risks, but on getting rid of them. Okay, so your Dando business is finally up and running. It's making you cash. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, knowing how to make that money start working for you. And this is where this cool little mental hack called the Rule of 72 comes in. It's super simple. You just divide the number 72 by your annual rate of return, and that tells you roughly how many years it's going to take for your money to double. It's just a quick way to really get a feel for the incredible power of compounding. And to really, really feel the power of this, check out the absolutely mind-bending story of Manhattan Island. This timeline shows it was sold way back in 1623 for about 23 bucks. Sounds like a steal, right? Well, what if that tiny amount of money had just been invested at a pretty modest 7% return? Today, it would be worth an unbelievable $23 trillion, way more than the value of the entire island itself. And that just perfectly captures one of the most powerful lessons in all of finance. Time is a much, much greater force than how much money you start with. If you give it a long enough runway, even the smallest little seed of an investment can grow into an absolute fortune. So let's just pull it all together. This is the zero-risk playbook. The path to financial freedom, it's not a lottery ticket, it's not some heroic gamble, it's just a series of smart, deliberate, low-risk moves. Clone what already works. Start it on the side while you still have a paycheck. Filter every single decision through that Dando method, and then just let the magic of compounding do all the heavy lifting for you. You see, this framework is just a really powerful way to rethink what entrepreneurship even is. It transforms it from this terrifying leap of faith into a calculated, achievable process. So the only question left really is, what's your first Darren Doe bet gonna be?